know.
Plus.
Yeah. He did. He had a game on Saturday. So, like,
That your voice actor I was watching on
Oh, yeah.
Sure, but he had some big things.
Morning.
I what?
Yeah, you probably gotta, probably have to get out of it, like.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not all day. No. Gotcha.
Is everybody ready? Jason?
Good evening, everyone. Stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. Tonight is an unusual Tuesday night board meeting. Every school district in New York State goes tonight to a vote on their their BOCES budget, which is why we're meeting tonight. Tonight also allows us to finalize this phase of the budgetary process, where we're going to be presenting the final budget that we are going to be putting out to our voters. I do want to say before we get into that, I want to thank the business office. I want to thank the Board of Education for their very, very thoughtful consideration. This is by far and away the hardest thing that the Board of Education has to grapple with, because it's very difficult to find the balance between finding the money, allocating the money, and making the community have the things that they want, and also supporting their employees. But they made a decision that was student first, first and foremost, and I think you're going to hear a lot about that tonight. We won't go into the nitty gritty of the budget because that's happened weeks over weeks, but we will talk about where we landed, and I can attend to any questions on that and open this presentation. Thank you. Yep. Okay, so you're going to see this is the same as it's always been. So this is our 2025-26 proposed budget number. We're looking at a budget of just over $31 million. And that comes with that has a 5.9% tax increase, and budget to budget, it's a 7.56% increase. Can I just clarify one thing? Not clarify. I do want to note there's a footnote on the bottom there. It says large increase due to large increase in debt service. So the 7.56 is a little bit of a false number. Is that an accurate way of describing that? Well, it's offset by revenue. So it looks like an increase, but there's other revenue coming in. Does that make sense? Okay. Now we can go forward. Keep going. I think the big piece that the board wanted me to explain, keep going, is if the budget fails, what are we going to do? So of course we're going to go out for that proposed budget number, but if it fails, we do have another chance to go out again. This will be our budget if the first vote did fail. It would be about 30,600,000. And that would come with a 3.55% tax increase. Let's go to the next slide. So if that first budget fails, these would be the items that we would need to cut from the budget. So we have the school resource officer, the elementary guidance counselor. We would have a reduction in music FTE. One UPK class would go down, currently at 3, will go to 2. That REACH program would go away. That's a teacher MTA. The huddle program for the athletics would go away, and also the morning elementary kickball program.
So I just want to mention right now, that right now these things are included in the budget. So the budget that's going to be proposed to the taxpayer includes these things. If for some reason that budget vote were to go down, we would re-present the community a different budget that would have some things trimmed away. Thank you. That would have some things trimmed away. And these are the items that for the last couple of years we've been articulating were COVID funded, that were added to the budget with the increase of COVID funds. So that makes the most sense to start there. That doesn't mean these things aren't valued. It doesn't mean these things are absolutely wonderful. They absolutely are. So it's not ideal, which is why the board has made a decision to not put them up on the chopping block at this point. Does that make anybody, any board members want to add anything to that or say anything to that? No? Okay. I will mention school resource officer. School resource is a little trickier. We do have to engage in a 3-year contract when we do have it. So we are ending our 3rd year of the SRO contract. We get our SRO for approximately 180 days and we pay that portion. We don't get it offset by any additional funds. There's no Questar, BOCES rebate. There's nothing. So we just pay outright for that service. And I know that's something that the community has talked very, very adamantly to the board. The board heard that loud and clear. However, it doesn't happen to be a required part of our program, so I think it had to be up for consideration. So I think the thinking is that if this is something that people really want and they treasure it and they value it, that they will vote with their feet by coming and sharing that.
So I think the other thing just to note is, as Angelina mentioned, the board and Stephanie, Angelina have been meeting for a while, and at this point we have gone through, as Stephanie will painfully tell me, every line of the budget and try to whittle down wherever we could. So if there was, we reduced the tech budget, we reduced various things to the point where if you cut it any further, you would be jeopardizing, just maintaining the building. We love all these programs. Unfortunately, the way that everything works with state funding, et cetera, you have to go above the tax cap to essentially fund these programs. And if we can't pass that first vote, these are definitely the items that get cut. There's nowhere else. So if you feel strongly about the SRO, about the counselor, about the UPK classroom, et cetera, we need the first vote to pass because they will not be included in that second budget. So just kind of sharing that unfortunate, sobering reality. I should mention that none of us at this table like this news or have any satisfaction in presenting it this way. That's why we're trying to put the most aggressive thing that we can without really eliminating super important programs to our students and the community at large.
I will also just offer one additional comment. We still don't have a state budget. That being said, and I think Stephanie had it on one of the previous slides there, we are working with the latest estimate we have, and fingers crossed that doesn't change, meaning that the actual final run that we get doesn't have a reduction from where we thought we had. In a great world, we'd actually have some additions, and that would help tremendously build our future. But we're budgeting conservatively in that way, and kind of hoping for the best.
Is there any other slides that you want to show? While we're here, and we will have a formal budget hearing where we go over the same things again in the next few weeks. But does anybody have any additional questions or comments? Great.
So, yes, there's our 3.1 item, the April 3rd meeting minutes. Do I, Danielle? Ryan, all in favor of accepting those minutes? Motion passes. And then the updates.
Yes, we have a very, very busy time once spring break happens. By the way, I hope everybody had a really nice spring break and you got to enjoy time with your family and friends. But it seems to go incredibly fast once we return from break. And because Easter is a little bit late this year, it'll go even quicker. So a couple things. We just got word a few days ago that our phase 2 of our project has passed. So that means that we can officially have the green light to put things out to bid, to accept the bids, and do those kind of things. And as you'll remember, our project is in 3 distinct phases: phase 1, phase 1A, and phase 2. So we're kind of working all 3 concurrently, and they have different things in them. And that was just the most efficient way to bid the packages and put them out. As I mentioned at the last time we got together, our construction manager was very pleased with the way the bids came in for the previous phase of the project. However, there is a little bit of a caveat. The price was good, but now we have to worry about if we can actually source the materials. So, for example, we were supposed to do some pretty significant boiler work this summer, and we may be able to still. They just have to see if they can actually get the boilers. It's not like you go to Home Depot. These are huge industrial boilers. So there's a chance that our timeline for things might be a little off based on the ability to source some things. But to my knowledge, and I don't think Stephanie's heard anything different, we're still on track for much of the field work and the outside work. I don't know of any issues related to that. So that piece will happen. But we're talking about sourcing tile, sourcing boilers and things like that. That might be a little bit more of a delay. CTE, we got some figures today. Many of our students were accepted into the CTE and additions programs. The good news is they were under some of the previous artificial caps that we talked about, so I feel pretty good about that. And the kids are actually getting ready. You see Mr. Miller over there. Are you doing your internship in 2 weeks? No. Some of the kids from CTE programs are actually going to start to do a 2-week internship at various places. So some of the seniors are getting ready for their next steps. We actually had a workplace violence review meeting earlier this week. Workplace violence is the new New York State law that always applied to employers but never applied to schools. And now it applies to schools. And it's just a report that an employee would fill out if they were a subject of violence or encountered some kind of violence in their work. And one of the patterns that we saw was that some of our students with disabilities had interactions with staff, maybe hitting or things like that. So just things that we talk about when we learn and we grow to make sure our staff have the right information and things like that. So although that doesn't sound like it would be workplace violence, it is a part of what we do and what we're responsible to do. So it was good to sit and look back at it instead of just dealing with an individual. Are there patterns? Should there be things that we look for? How can we improve it? High school principals, Mr. Rizzo is moving on to be the superintendent of Berlin, and we've conducted this week our 2nd round of principal interviews. I was lucky enough to have Kayla with us and be a part of that process. And I'm actually going to ask Leah if you would poll the board. At one point, we had talked about the final candidate going to the board, and I just want to see where the board would land on that if you'd like to meet them before they get approved. Okay, great. I will set up a time. We do have 2 candidates, and I'll communicate with you guys via email about how that'll look, and I can show you the rankings and the ratings, how that looks. And then seniors, I mentioned them before. As many seniors are enjoying some really great accolades and really starting to think about the end of the year kind of stuff, we do have some seniors that are being slugs. And I'll be making some phone calls this week to really I don't know if I have an ability to motivate them at all, but at least I'll be able to put my head on a pillow at night saying that I reached out. Just really getting these kids, we really work hard to keep our graduation rate But we're also not gonna lower our standards. The kids have to do what the kids have to do. So we're just kind of in that phase right now. So hopefully people will get that, people will get that message. It's tough. It's April. They think they have plenty of time, but they really, really, really don't. That's true. Did you hear that, Kayla?
Whoa.
Actually, I've had in the past, several students flunk out on chemistry and physics. They just gave up at the end of the year, and their engineering and pre-med pathways were pulled from them because the colleges wanted somebody that was going to take their whole academics. So with that being said, I will transition. Which one of you would like to go first?
Angela,
Yes.
just real quick before you transition, since we brought up the capital project, also talked about the budget post this year, can you just kind of explain to folks who may be listening in or in the audience, how that money is separate? And
I'm hoping I'm going to say this as eloquently as I need to, so please correct me if I don't. The piles of money are very different. The district has saved for some time and put money into a reserve to prepare for this particular project that is going to be beginning. And the voters voted on that last year, voted on a plan that would pick up when existing debt fell off, a new one would come on. So that would stay somewhat cost neutral. This project that's coming on goes a little above that, but it was offset by some revenues as we talked about in the budget presentation. It is aided differently. That money cannot be used for staff. That money cannot be used for pencils. That money can't be used for those kind of things. It's meant to take care of building things. And you'd want it that way because if you didn't have regular capital improvement projects to take care of things like roofs and bathrooms, the place would fall apart and that wouldn't be good for kids either. Is that
Yeah,
correct? me if I'm-
there was a tax impact in this project.
Yeah, it
It's not
goes a little bit of,
yeah,
a little bit about that.
One more quick question about the football field. Two people asked me last night if there was issues with the field because they canceled. I had mentioned not to mind that. So apparently there's something going on around the community that the football field is on hold. There's construction issues with.
I don't think so. I think there was a little bit of I know there was a little bit of a delay of getting DEC permission to start, like certain entities had to
Yes,
sign off on it,
okay.
but it's not on hold.
Okay, thank
We
you.
had to, I'm glad you asked that. We had to add some additional things to protect I was gonna call it the swamp, but it's probably called the wetlands. Like we had to put in some shrubbery, we had to put some trees in, some plantings, and actually a fence. Because they really want to make sure that no one goes over there. That's not something we've had to do before, so that was a little bit of a debate with DEC. So I think that was the hold, if anything, but it's still on track.
Thank you.
I think the big thing to know is just the general fund is not separate from the capital project. They're accounted for in two separate funds. And our general fund budget really has nothing to do with the capital project. We're accounted for, like I said, in two different funds. And passing the budget has nothing to do with that capital project. That's already been passed by the voters.
Thank you.
So another way, I think, to answer that too would be and we wouldn't want this, but if the budget were to go down, the capital project would still go forward. That was always already voted on and accounted for by, correct, yeah, for sure. And it's very planful because as Stephanie had mentioned, it is a little overtax neutral, but it's planned in a way to keep that any kind of impact as minimal as possible to the taxpayers. Which one of you would like to go?
I'll start.
Good evening, everyone. So our third marking period report cards were released for students right before our spring break, which means we are in our fourth and final marking period. Very exciting. We're also still in the thick of state testing. We have completed our ELA testing. We did that before the break. I really was hopeful that we dodged the technical glitches that were happening throughout the state by postponing our window by a day. Unfortunately, we did not get out unscathed. There were, the same things I'm sure now you are seeing reported in the news as were happening in other schools. Login issues. We had some glitchy things going on with student keyboards, but truthfully, we made it through ELA testing, and to my knowledge, any impact on student performance was very, very minimal. And if any student scores end up being impacted, we're still waiting for some guidance and information from the state. We'll certainly let those parents know, but if that's the case, it would be a very, 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 very small number of students. And, you know, that's largely thanks to the patience and persistence of our wonderful faculty, our teachers, also our students. I got multiple reports that when the final classmate was able to log in their classroom, the class erupted in cheers, and also Mr. Dean Avellis, one of our IT specialists, who was very vigilant and responsive to just trying to keep things going and check in on classrooms for us. So even though really the headache is mostly mine from a testing and academic accountability standpoint, the impact on our students and staff really was pretty minimal, and we made it through. So we'll look forward to math testing this week. Our little library and bench Eagle Scout project from Chris Zakrowski is completed. It's in our front playground area. It looks absolutely beautiful. Some pictures were shared of that, and I expect to include some of the pictures in the newsletter this week. So we thank him very, very much for thinking of us with his Eagle Scout project, and we are also happy to help him in that way. And some exciting events coming up. We have our K-2 concert this Friday, and both of our grandparents' days next Wednesday and Thursday. So some nice things to look forward to.
Thank you. So we did not have classes erupting into applause. It could be because they weren't excited about the testing. But fortunately, we didn't have any issues in the secondary building, so I'm sorry to hear that happened to you. We're also in that assessment time of the year. We had our ELA and our math and science coming up, not just for our middle schoolers, but also those state exams for our seniors and our upperclassmen. So the one exciting thing to think about, we have assessments at the end of the year, but we also have all of our senior big experiences. So Mr. Rizzo and I will be working with the class next week. We're going to talk about all of those expectations and fun events they have planned for their senior year, including graduation and senior picnic and senior trip and all of those events that lead up to that. So we have a lot going on over here. It's not just testing, there's a lot of great stuff.
Okay, which brings us to item number 5, the committee and. Oh, I'm sorry, Kayla.
Oh, sorry, Kayla.
Hi, Kayla. Hi.
Thank you, appreciate it. I just have a couple updates. Sports are going really well. We had the track and field senior night tonight. Softball, baseball, lacrosse, both girls and boys. The Choraleers are actually going to NISMA tomorrow. We get the opportunity to get judged on a couple songs, so that's good. And then our fundraisers are coming up. This Saturday we have a car wash. And then I believe next Monday we have our Chipotle fundraiser. And then the last thing I had was Next Step Day is May 1st. So a lot of us are getting ready for that.
Kayla, you talk about Heads of Hope also.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. I forgot.
Of course. So Heads of Hope is happening May 18th. Katie, I think, is running it again. Yeah, so it's just to raise awareness and to run, walk, get together. I unfortunately won't be here, but I hopefully will see some pictures and get to see people come together.
I think, I could be wrong on this, but I think the Heads of Hope is the same date as the PTA golf tournament. I think it is, right? However, people can donate to either, so you can go to one and donate to the other, so don't want to feel like you'll miss out.
Down to item number 5, committee and liaison updates. Any updates on those?
I'll just add, it's not listed on there, but I did send an email today to our communications subcommittee just to talk about some of the marketing of the budget, really trying to work hard to find people, meet people where they are. One thing that we took away from last year was that the video that was made by students was very impactful. We really are going to try to troubleshoot how to make the written information that people get something packaged in a way that they'll take the time to actually read through it.
So you don't want it to be too little, you don't want it to be too much, but meet people where they are. So I'll be working with that subcommittee to talk about some strategies and some things that we can do. We're required to do some things. They have to go out to people a particular way. I'll be populating the website tomorrow with the information from tonight, now, once it's voted on. So there'll be things out there. Now we just have to get people to, one, look at it, because we want them to be really well informed. We want them to understand what's included and what is not included, and to Ryan's point, what the consequences might be should that not pass. And likewise, to get them to be excited and want to come out and support the school and support the program that we have.
So item 6.0, the BOCES Questar 3 election ballot. You guys have to get a look at all of those. None of this seem to vote by consent. Yeah, so for 6.1 and 6.2, we're gonna send, can't wait very much. And I'll just offer, administrative budget. Questar is, we're a component district of Questar BOCES. Many school districts are a component of BOCES. BOCES provides some services to us, some supports to us, a myriad of different things. This budget amount is based on the services that we get and the number of students both in our school and in the entire BOCES. So as the population ebbs and flows, that number changes over time. So with 6.1, you're voting for 4 incumbent members of the Questar board who also happen to be current or former members of other school districts in our BOCES. And then 6.2 is the administrative budget. Often they come and present to us. Is that very helpful? Yeah, they've asked if we wanted anybody to come or if we wanted to go to one of their sites to see some things. And one of the things that I might recommend that this board do is go see some of the newer CTE programs to see some of the things that our kids are getting opportunities to do. They just did a brand new welding program. I think that'd be a really great thing to see. So all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. And item 7.1 and 7.2 by consent. Ryan, Kevin, any discussion? These are standard.
Yeah, they definitely are standard, but I just will point to bring to your attention, if you look at the cost for some of these services. Again, Stephanie works very hard to get Medicaid reimbursement and or state aid back on some of these things, but you can see the programs are pretty costly. So when you're looking at major cost drivers on our budget in particular, some of these things happen to be some of the major drivers. And again, we don't really get to negotiate that. They tell us what that'll be. And we certainly, it's not something you can bargain shop, really. But we do try to keep the cost down to the best of our ability. And then 7.2 is a list of places. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Then items, superintendent's recommendations personnel 8.1 through 8.3 by consent. Danielle, to Yeah, I apologize that I had to pull that last time. There was a question about it. I had it confused with regular book club, and this is a different club, so I just wanted to make sure I had the correct and the funding source for it, but we ended up working that out. It was a club that was previously paid for by COVID, so unfortunately, as a go for it, unless we substitute that out with a currently planned for club, that one won't be able to go for it, which stinks because I really like the opportunity for kids to receive, but finite resources.
favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
This one I don't think you can do by consent. You have to.
All right, so item 9.1, disposal of obsolete books. Nina, Danielle. Questions?
Not these ones.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item 9.2, approval of the budget. All right.
So I will just pull this up, just for anybody that's online or anybody in the audience. This is the line by line budget for the major categories in their budget bill that get us to the total amount that the taxpayers will vote on. The taxpayers don't vote on individual jobs and things like that. They vote on the total amount. We try to operationalize it, tell you what that means, but that's what they actually vote on. So that's included right there. And that amount is 31,896.00. Ryan, all in favor? Opposed? Item 9.3, approval of the report card. Any discussion on?
That's just what we have to do, the state, that's what the state basically just shows, the budget amount, the taxes that we're raising, the fact that we're going over the cap, and then goes into our reserves.
Is there a motion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. 9.4, donations. Danielle, Evan, any discussion? I just want to thank not only the Presbyterian Church, but many of our community members that donate to our backpack program. It is essential, and you can see the kids every Friday walking out of school with a backpack full of food. That doesn't happen magically. Donations go in and food pantry, and we pay for a service. So we very much appreciate that. That is an essential need for those families. Appreciate that. All in favor? Opposed? Passes. And item 9.5, financial reports. So one of our previous meetings, we had made a commitment to the board that we would spend a little bit of time reviewing some of the financial documents that are on here. Sometimes depending on when things happen in the business office, sometimes they appear to be off by a month, which by the time they can go through. But this week, and I'm going to defer to Stephanie for some of the more intricate answers here. But you have your claims, which you can talk about what fund they came from, what the value was, and you can see, was there POs, was there a problem, any issues, anything else like that?
So the bottom part will tell us, the issues that were found with our claims order and what department, the issue came from.
So and normally you follow up with whoever the originator is to attend those things. So that shows up monthly if it's available.
That was
Everybody's favorite tax collection. Actually, this is a good opportunity for you to see how the different towns are assessed. Every town operationalizes their tax levy a little bit better. We collect for everything but Brunswick. Right? Brunswick collects their own taxes. We get like these. Yes.
for some,
We'll let you look at the.
they don't pay their tax on time.
I guess that was obvious. And then this one really is student activities, which get audited as well on here. And these are club accounts that students have. That's probably your area of most vulnerability because you have kids. Absolutely, that's what it's supposed to be. That's why they really want clubs to have kids. So they want the kids to do it. They don't want the adult to do it with the child. They want the students to do it. All in favor? Opposed? Which brings us to public comment. Please remember to review the points on the board. And Maureen, do we have any? I know nobody signed up.
We do have an executive tonight for personnel.
Any other discussions? Or pick this or all? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, go to executive.
All in favor? Opposed? All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Usually,